Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our ordinary council meeting for August. I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Camberwell people, and also traditional owners across the Southern Downs, including the Gidabal people, the Yugara-Yugarapul people, and the Bigambul people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and thank them for their continuous care of this country. Today we have Marcus Repo with us to lead us in prayer. Thank you, Marcus.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors and everybody else in the chamber here this morning. It's a great privilege to be here. My name's Marcus Repo. My wife Michelle and I are the pastors of your church, Stanthorpe, among other locations, and I'm representing the Ministers Association of Stanthorpe here this morning. As we gather here today, I'm reminded that the Southern Downs is much more than a collection of towns and roads and sewer problems and water issues or lack thereof at the moment, but I am very grateful for the 15 to 20 mil we received last night. So this place is a community of people. It's families building a future, farmers trusting God through seasons of drought and rain, business owners taking risks, volunteers quietly serving, and neighbours looking out for one another. I believe that the decisions made in this chamber matter because they touch the lives of real people. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6, it says to trust in the Lord with all your heart, and ultimately He'll direct your path, make it straight. I'm reminded that wisdom begins with humility and a willingness to seek God's guidance. My prayer today is that God would grant each and every one of you elected members and every member of your staff wisdom, which is more than knowledge, courage beyond a convenience, and a continued genuine desire to seek the common good. May our conversations be marked by respect, our decisions by integrity, and our leadership by servant-heartedness. May we continue, each in our varying ways, to contribute and to continue building a Southern Downs that is resilient, generous, and full of hope for generations to come. May God bless this council and every member. May God richly bless the great people of the Southern Downs. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. We now move to condolences, and I might just mark the passing of Dolly Parton, someone who touched billions of people around the world and showed many of us what it is to be a truly good person. I know a lot of people across the region will be mourning Dolly today. Councillors, does anyone have condolences this morning? Deputy Mayor?
Yep, thank you, Madam Melissa. Today I'd like to share a condolence with you all for Archibald Lindsay Cameron, better known as Archie to everyone who knew him. Archie was born in the Stanthorpe Hospital on the 4th of December 1937. He spent his first few years in a cottage at Caledonia in the hills east of Turners Creek before the family moved to Dalveen for his primary school years. Archie made many of his lifelong friends there. A couple of years at Scott's in Warwick was followed by training as a wool classer in Brisbane. Back home at Dalveen, he met a young teacher at the Warwick Rodeo Ball. Archie and Grace married the next year and they set about making their own family. Archie worked in the Bank of New South Wales for a while to feed the growing family of 4 children, Karen, Robin, Duncan and Helen. Eventually Archie became a full-time farmer, which really was his passion. Although he was a busy man, he was generous with his time, always willing to help out anyone who asked without any fanfare. He also represented the district as a councillor on the Rosenthal Shire Council for many years and did his time in local committees, including the School P&C, the Dalveen Sports Club and the Fire Brigade. In those days, if something needed doing, the locals all pitched in and got it done. Archie was always there in the thick of it, often adding a bit of quiet humour to grease the wheels. After 30-odd tough years farming, Archie and Grace retired to Old Stanthorpe Road early in the 2000s. They did a fair bit of travelling around Eastern Australia, but Archie really wanted to be at home. While at home, he loved sitting on the veranda and looking out onto the countryside, avoiding town as much as possible. He didn't want to be around all the hustle and bustle. Due to some ongoing medical issues and Archie needing the full-time care, he and Grace reluctantly moved to Haddington Nursing Home in Tenterfield earlier this year. where Archie could get the assistance he needed. He was very happy with the assistance they got there, and he and Grace could be a couple rather than she a carer and he the patient. Archie finally wore out on July 8th, but not before he made sure Grace was settled in a place where she was happy and safe and well looked after. He and Grace had already shared almost 67 years of marriage. Archie had a pretty good life, but had plenty of ups and downs along the way. He was well respected during his time as a councillor with the Rosenthal Shire Council and the community of Dalveen and surrounds. Archie Cameron will be fondly remembered by many, many people.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Wantling.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to acknowledge the passing of Eugene Leray, whereas most knew him Cooker, a nickname he was given as a result of his laugh that resembled that of a kookaburra. Eugene was mostly involved in the transport industry for many years and was a master of knowing when trucks needed a service by pulling out the dipstick and tasting the oil. Eugene was well known for his poetry, which spoke of all the places and the people he met over his years of driving. But driving was not his only love of life. He was a train enthusiast who used his holidays to travel on every major train that went through our country, some of them even twice. Eugene will be sadly missed by his family and those who knew him or had the fortune of meeting him and listening to his stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wantling. Any other condolences, councillors? No. Moving on, we have the reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 22 July 2026 be adopted. Are you happy to move that, Deputy Mayor? Yep. And seconder? Councillor Pigeon, thank you. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Actions from council meetings. We have a recommendation that council receive the report. Are you happy to move that, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Huslett, thank you. Any questions on that, councillors? No. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillor Pigeon, item number?
15.3.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald, item number?
15.5.
Thank you. Is that any others? Councillor Pigeon, item 15.3.
I inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest due to a relationship with the submitter, and I will be leaving the meeting and not participating in the decision.
Thank you. And Councillor McDonald, item 15.5.
15.5, Mayor. I have an actual conflict of interest in this item as I have moved a number of removable buildings onto my property at Goomburra, and I have one currently in process. So I'll be leaving the room. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay. We have no mayoral minute and no notices of motion, so moving on to reading and consideration of correspondence. We have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. I'll move that. Are you happy to second, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Councillors, the main item I would like to speak to in my correspondence is in relation to, of course, the planning scheme. On 11 August, I met with the Office of the Deputy Premier and the State Planner, and we received the very good news that the Deputy Premier had that morning released the planning scheme back to Council for consideration and adoption. I'd like to thank the Deputy Premier for returning the scheme to Council, and I look forward to our continued partnership with the State Government as we work towards implementing the Southern Downs planning scheme this year. That it came back to us with only one condition is evidence of how much work went into the draft planning scheme and the huge level of community engagement we had with the process. Council's community engagement campaign for the scheme generated significant community participation and was recently shortlisted as a finalist at the LGMA Awards for Excellence Teamwork in Brisbane, which was a fantastic recognition of the efforts of our staff and the success of the campaign. During the 8-week engagement period, Council spoke directly with more than 1,000 residents to explain the proposed changes and collect feedback and valuable input. and hosted 13 in-person sessions across the region that enabled residents to ask questions and share their views about the future of planning in the Southern Downs. Having a modern planning scheme will enable our council to address housing supply challenges and drive business attraction for our region, while safeguarding our valuable agricultural land and preserving the region's distinct character and lifestyle. Benefits include the commencement of an electronic planning scheme, making it easier and quicker to lodge applications, changes to zoning to reflect updated housing demands and growth projections, increase in density and decrease in minimum lot size for low and medium density residential zones, no planning approval required for secondary dwellings within the rural and rural residential zones, which will support more housing, encouragement of agri-tourism and nature-based tourism, which is a growing sector in our region, and additional land within the industry zone, particularly in Killarney, to support economic growth. Councillors, I'd also like to mention the correspondence in relation to the Warwick bins in the CBD from the Warwick State High School Environmental Committee. It's great to see our young students engaged in making their community a better place and their commitment to recycling and sustainability. And I'd like to ask the CEO to include this request in our budget considerations for the 27-28 year and bring it back to councillors at a relevant portfolio update so we can get the school involved in community engagement as they have offered to do in the letter. Thank you. Do we have anyone else wanting to speak to that item? Councillor Huslett?
Just to reiterate what you said there about the Warwick State High School, but also the following item, number 8, about the R for TR program, the driver safety program, to support what you've asked of the CEO to include that in our considerations for budget, because both of these items are actually items that the Youth Council have also raised. There's 3 things that they've raised, and 2 of them, one is driver safety and the other is our recycling process in the region. So it's all kind of aligning with the thought processes there.
Councillor Huslett. Councillor Bartley?
Thanks, Mayor. Whilst we're on the subject of the planning scheme, seems to be has created a lot of interest. People are now going onto our website and looking at the draft planning scheme, and I'm of the belief it's not current at the moment with what's come back. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Through to the CEO.
Sorry, Councillor Bartley, what was your question?
The draft planning scheme that we have on our website, it's not current.
Through the chair, the draft planning scheme that is on the website is current because it's the draft. Council will need to formally adopt the document that's come back from the state, and I believe that will be coming to you at the September OCM.
Because it has created a lot of interest, people are looking at it, and we're getting a little bit of pushback from particularly the Killarney community with suggestions that they weren't listened to during the consultation period, but probably that's a conversation for another day, but I think we need to find out what their grievances are regarding the planning scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Councillor Pigeon?
Just in regards to the young people directly engaging with council and proposing practical improvements through the recycling and the Ready to Road program, I welcome this and I look forward to working with them, as this is an initiative that should be really encouraged. So thank you.
Councillor Dean?
I'd just also like to thank the Warwick State High School Environmental Committee for taking an interest in the waste strategy. I think it's fantastic to prolong the life of our waste cell as long as possible, and I think this is a practical and simple solution, and hopefully we can see this in progress going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Windle?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to point out too that this letter that came to us from the Warwick State High School was handed to us by Year 10 students. So that just goes to show the level of maturity that we have within our schools for Year 10 students to realise that there's an issue out there with recycling, and they've put this letter forward. So I'm very proud that those students who presented this came from within our youth council, and it's very obvious that they're very switched on to the needs of what we should be doing in our region. So it's good to see. Thank you.
Councillor Richters.
Mayor, I move to table correspondence from myself to the Deputy Premier in regards to the planning scheme. Do you want to bring it up, sir?
Okay, that document is tabled, thank you.
Mayor, can we please be made aware of the contents of the document?
It'll be circulated after the,
Or councillor Richters can speak to it.
Which I will.
Thank you.
But Mayor, I think we need to vote on tabling because it's a procedural motion, I think.
the document be tabled. It appears to meet the criteria for tabling, so is everyone happy to vote on that, or do people want to see a copy of this before they vote?
I'd like a copy before we vote. Mayor, if councillor Ricks were to speak to it, we might have some idea what it's about.
Okay. Can we hold that procedural motion
Sure,
while we
yeah.
speak to the motion, and then we can
No worries at all. So I'd like to also acknowledge the Warwick State High School Environmental Committee proposal for recycling bins in the Warwick CBD, which I also hope maybe will extend to other areas in our region as well. They've identified real practical issues, suggested a sensible solution, and they've offered to help make it happen, which I support, and I congratulate those students for taking that initiative, and I also welcome it being included in the discussions for next year's budget as well. And there's also a lot of worthwhile correspondence in this section in regards to advocacy, particularly around water security, tourism, agriculture, housing and infrastructure. There is one that I find difficult to reconcile with the position this council actually adopted though. The Deputy Premier has advised that our new planning scheme may proceed only if the 60-metre rural dwelling setback is reinstated. Council debated this, council made a decision. The majority position was 20 metres. And Mayor, you were entitled to disagree, and as yourself, you're entitled to advocate your own view. But when a mayor walks into a minister's office, as the Southern Downs Regional Council, they carry that democratic decision from this council with them. And this correspondence raises a few concerns. Was the council's decision faithfully represented, or was it effectively left behind? On the 21st of July, correspondence was sent to the Deputy Premier, specifically about our new planning scheme. It is a substantial document dealing with housing, growth, development, infrastructure, industry and tourism. Yet the correspondence chose to emphasise the protection of agricultural land. By then, council had already obviously resolved for the 20 metres, and you had made your opposition to that well known. In those circumstances, it is difficult to accept that the emphasis could have been seen as politically neutral, or that the risk of it being interpreted as a departure from council's position was somehow unforeseeable. And still, there was not one mention in your letter to the Deputy Premier about council's majority position supporting the 20-metre setback. The state then has written to us subsequently, imposed the 60 metres, and the correspondence back to the Deputy Premier welcomed that outcome and speaks positively about safeguarding agricultural land, again without acknowledging that this condition overturned council's democratic decision. I do not know what was actually said in Brisbane, and I won't pretend that I do. But if council's majority position was not defended, that is far more serious than disagreement of a planning policy. When the mayor represents this council, the community is entitled to expect that the democratic decisions of council are carried into that room, even when the mayor personally voted another way. If that did not occur, that democratic decision of this council was not simply disagreed with, it was left without an advocate. And that goes directly to the responsibility every elected representative accepts, taking the oath of office to faithfully and impartially fulfil the duties entrusted to them. And the people paying the price are not sitting around this chamber. They are the people trying to build homes in a housing and cost of living crisis. Construction, insurance, mortgages and rents are already hurting families, while the new rating category has added further pressure for many property owners, as reflected in the petition we are about to receive today with some 900 or more signatures. On some smaller rural blocks, 60 metres is physically impossible. So people pay council fees, they pay planners, they prepare reports, they wait, And during this entire term, council term, I'm not aware of us refusing a single one of those setback variations. We make people pay more and wait longer to ask for an outcome we keep approving anyway. That is not housing policy, and it is not meaningful agricultural protection. A house at 61 metres can still complain about dust spraying livestock, machinery and noise. If the state genuinely wants to protect agricultural land, which I completely and utterly support, the protection of a legitimate agricultural activity, we need to give farmers certainty and give residents clarity, but don't impose unnecessary costs on people trying to put a roof over their heads and call it agricultural protection. So I have written to the Deputy Premier asking how this essential 60-metre principle will now be applied across all of Queensland. Because if it's essential to the people of Southern Downs, I'm sure it will be equally essential everywhere else.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor McDonald.
Yes, Mayor. I have a couple of concerns in regards to the correspondence, and there's quite a bit of correspondence. In particular, my first concern relates to the census. Obviously, that occurred a couple of weeks ago. However, I am aware, and I did speak to you earlier in regards to the number of people, or particularly those in the rural sector and some in town as well, that did not receive copies of the census. Now, censuses are critical for our community to ensure that we receive the correct levels of funding, be it from the state and the federal levels as well. So they need to be accurate and they need to be obviously representative of our region. I would ask in particular, because we do have an aged community or an ageing community that may not be tech savvy, that we actually do write to our member and request that people have an opportunity to do the census, be that a paper form of the census at a later date from when it was given. And I know that there is that opportunity online, however, some people are not able to fill out those documents online. I realise that this isn't a local government issue. However, what I am saying is the implications on the local government can be concerning in regards to our population statistics, etc. I'm one of those households that did not receive anything to do with the census in a paper copy to inform me. I'm also aware that other people at Rogers Creek did not receive any paper copies in the post to say that the census was on. Now, of course, I'm able to do it online and did so. However, there are a lot of other farmers that don't fall into that category, and there are a lot of other members of our society that don't fall into that category. So if we could possibly address that, that would be fantastic.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. We didn't actually ever finish this item.
No.
We
You're right.
was going to talk to it and then we were going to go to the
Oh, my
procedural
apologies.
motion.
Yes. We had a procedural motion that we, had not voted on. Given that Councillor Richters has spoken to his letter, are people happy to vote on that procedural motion, that his letter be tabled?
Can I just ask on that, when we vote to table the motion, does that mean it is being sent? Or that just means it's being received by this meeting?
It's been received by the
Thank you, just to clarify that.
Yes. It does not mark endorsement of the document that's being tabled at all, it just tables it for the record. Okay, going to a vote on that procedural motion, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Returning to...
I have a question there. Just to clarify, Cynthia or Councillor McDonald just suggests that we communicate with the member. I'm assuming she means the federal member.
Yes, my apologies, federal member, not state. He doesn't need that.
And returning to Councillor McDonald, did you have other items that you were speaking to?
Yes, I did as well. I do concur with some aspects in regards to the planning scheme. I do believe that when that was voted on by our council, that there certainly was a firm majority in regards to the setbacks. I would ask the Mayor to repcharge In regards to the Deputy Premier, those setbacks, I do believe that we had voted on those for very good reasons, and the logic that was used from Councillor Richter's is very sound. We have not, generally speaking, denied anybody a setback that is within those parameters if they've asked for differentiation. So why all of a sudden is it different? And certainly, when I look at other areas, for example, Ballina, having holiday down there, I see sugarcane farms that run right up to the boundaries of smaller blocks in rural sections. When I say right up to, within 1 metre. They spray, they do all of those things, and there are numerous areas within Australia where this is quite normal, and certainly within other areas. So I'd be watching very closely in regards to our neighbours as to whether this precedence, because I'll call it a precedence, that has been set down by the Deputy Premier is followed in the Western Downs, is followed in Toowoomba, is followed in the Scenic Rim. Because as far as I'm aware, I don't believe that their setbacks are as heavy as ours. So this will be very interesting to watch, and I do ask, Mayor, that is rapid charged, please. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to speak? No, okay. I have a right of reply on that, and I would definitely like to reply. I find it offensive that Councillor Richter's would suggest that I would not support a majority decision of council, and I would not reflect that in my advocacy. I was in the minority of 3 councillors who voted to keep the setback. However, once the decision was made, I supported the majority decision of this council in all of my actions and in my advocacy. Councillor Richter's is disappointed that the majority decision of council has not been respected. The irony cannot be lost on anyone in this room. Councillor Richter's is the councillor who shows the least respect for majority decisions made in this room. The damage he does publicly agitating against majority decisions is his choice, but it has implications.
Point of order, Mayor.
What's your point of order?
You have law conduct. I don't believe that you can say that publicly.
There was an allegation. There was an allegation that I had not represented the majority decision of council, and I had. If our council always supported majority decisions, then the state government would have seen our example. I cannot speak to why the state imposed the condition, but it was certainly not discussed with me at any of those meetings. What I would say is there is an important reason to support the majority decision of council, because when we are united, we have more chance that the state government will see us as a united council in decisions that they make, and they will see us as a united council when they decide on grant funding. We will debate the planning scheme in full when it comes to the September OCM. And I think that is the appropriate time to debate the condition applied by the state, rather than going at this point back to the state before we have made a decision on that matter. I would also say that in regard to Killarney and any residents who are looking on our system, we should probably make it clear that the draft scheme will be updated following the September OCM for those looking for information on it, just to make that absolutely clear to residents. Thank you. Going to a vote on that correspondence. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 10. We have a recommendation that council receive the petition and note the matter has been referred to the Chief Executive Officer for investigation and to bring a report to a future meeting of council. Can you happy to move that to me? Yes. Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, going to a vote on that one. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you.
Need to take.
Thank you, councillor, for the question. Through the Mayor, I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. For submitting that petition to council, it is always appreciated. Item 11.1, we have a recommendation that council's Livable Communities Portfolio Report be received. Councillor Windle will move that, and a seconder, Councillor Dean, thank you. Do you want to speak to that motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll take the report as read, but I just would like to point out that the cross-border commissioners, both New South Wales and Queensland, are working very, very closely together and just trying to overcome some of the issues that we see on a regular basis on our borders. So it's pleasing to be at those meetings and hear them both speak on these issues, and they are doing everything they can to try and overcome some of those issues and get more unity between the two. Thing, of course, was the red dress at the Warwick Art Gallery. If you didn't get to see it, you missed out, because that was an absolutely amazing exhibition and very heartwarming, and I believe it's probably coming close to its end in Brisbane as well, so you may have an opportunity to see it there if you didn't. And I did attend a suicide awareness presentation just recently, which was very well represented by several agencies throughout the region. It was pleasing to see the representative there from Standby, which I had not been aware of that it even existed before, so it was good to see that it was there and offering support for bereaved families. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor, I have a number of questions. Just in regards to the cross-border updates. Point number 1 in particular talks about the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator and managing ad hoc issues. Given that we have a very a large heavy vehicle industry within our region, can we possibly have Councillor Windle expand on those particular issues that were brought to the forum?
Well, thank you, Councillor McDonald, for the question, but it's Kelly Urquhart who would be the one who'd have to expand on those issues.
Did you not attend it?
Yes, but they don't go into a great deal of detail at those meetings. It's more of noting what they're addressing at the time. There's some discussion, but not a great deal. So Kelly would be able to give you more of an update as the Border Commissioner for New South Wales as to what she is trying to address and overcome in conjunction with Bob G, our Queensland Commissioner.
So you have no comment on the ad hoc issues?
No.
Right. Could we possibly get a briefing, Mayor, from the CEO or staff in regards to what those ad hoc issues are, given that heavy industry is so important to our region? I would appreciate some sort of back briefing in regards to those issues and how they impact our region.
We'll take that on notice, thank you.
The next one. There seems to be concern with students and birth certificates, which I thought I can understand the issues. Obviously, sometimes students are going to school across border. Do you have any expansion in regards to what those issues are, Councillor Windle?
Not in detail, Councillor McDonald. Once again, this was a follow-up, and she was just giving us another briefing to say that she's still working on some of the issues that she has seen, but I can't give you exact examples of what all those issues are.
So, well, issues is a broad term, and they're talking about birth certificates and access to education.
Do you want to take it? Shall we take that on notice?
Take it on notice.
Yeah,
Perhaps we may have to get the Border Commissioners to come and attend a CIS or something to give you all the detail that you need.
Well, a back brief would be great. If we're attending these meetings, it costs money, so...
It doesn't actually, because I...
Sorry, can we stick to
Yes.
standing orders, please?
Yeah,
Is that a
I've got the
question?
floor.
You have what's your question?
Well, I've asked 2 already. Okay, the discussion in regards to ambulance cover, which also affects Southern Downs region, obviously, down to Wollongara and those type of areas where you've got Jennings versus Wollongara, and making sure that people have provision of appropriate health services. Was there any discussion in regards to there being critical concerns of people receiving medical treatment?
There was nothing actually raised specifically, but as it says there, discussions are ongoing regarding ambulance cover for the New South Wales students who travel into Queensland, and that's all I can tell you.
So there
That's
hasn't been
discussions between the Commissioner and whoever else she has to speak to try and overcome the problems.
no statistics in regards to any
No.
casualties or otherwise?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, appreciated.
Councillor Haslett. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the Deputy Mayor for this portfolio report and to thank her for keeping us updated on what has been happening in her portfolio. She does this really regularly, and that's a really good way for the rest of us, as Councillor McDonald has just pointed out, to find out what's going on. As it happens, National Heavy Vehicle Regulator sits under my portfolio of roads. I've already spoken to the Deputy Mayor as soon as I saw this item here. She's given me the contacts to follow up further, and I am going to a meeting on Friday in Toowoomba with regards to our TMR roads, and I have no doubt that the heavy vehicle regulator will be discussed there, because it always is. So it's the teamwork involved in providing these portfolio reports gives those of us who need to follow up on things the ability to do so, I believe, and I thank the Deputy Mayor for what she's put here, and I think it's more than adequate what she's said for me to then be able to go and do my job properly.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Councillor McDonald, did you say? No, through me, Councillor McDonald.
I
Do you
said
have a question?
through you
Yeah.
to Councillor Haslett.
Yes, I determine if the question can be put, so your question is?
Okay, the question is exactly what she has just mentioned. If it's her portfolio,
Councillor Richards.
I just wanted to quickly say I also agree that the red dress was a fantastic addition to our region. And I just want to also point out, for anyone who has not yet seen it and wants to go see it, it is still at the Museum of Brisbane until the 13th of September. So you should definitely go and see it.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Any other councillors? I will just say, similar to Councillor Haslett, the Deputy Mayor and I do have our portfolio reports here today, and I would like to encourage other councillors who attend meetings in their portfolios to include those in their regular portfolio reports. Do you need a right of reply, Councillor?
No, I think I'll just leave it as it is, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going to a vote on that, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. We have my portfolio report and a recommendation that Council's Prosperous Communities portfolio report be received. I will move that, and are you happy to second, Councillor Windle? Thank you. Councillors, as usual, I will take the report as read, but just reinforce that given that we have introduced the low-level water restrictions in Stanthorpe with Storm King Dam reaching 65%. It will be in my September report, but we did have another update of the state and federal water ministers to let them know of our water situation and our planning on that. And we had some rain overnight, so that was very good news for the whole region. Hopefully more to come. Does anyone else want to speak to that item? No. All in favour? That is unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.1, we have a recommendation that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Are you happy to move that to Deputy Mayor? Yep, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Are there any questions on that one, councillors? No. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 13.1, we have the Financial Services report and a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 31 July 2026. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Wantling, as portfolio? Thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Wantling, or any
Yeah, I
questions?
just got a question on, if you can take it on notice. As of 31st of July 2026, Council had 92 million in cash in bank and investments. Just how much of that could be available to Council in the future?
I'll come back to you, Councillor, with the exact figure. That is all governed by the Queensland Treasury Corp. They dictate to all councils across Queensland how much you can hold in their portfolios versus what you have to keep as cash as bank.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ritters.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to, I quite regularly during this section of the agenda point out to the General Manager for Infrastructure about our capital program, and I just wanted to point out that last year at this same report we had completed 1% of our capital budget, and this year it's 3%. Well done, Nick. Love it. Great start.
Thank you, Councillor Ritters. Councillor Bartley.
Another question as well, Mayor. Given, and it shows our borrowing report as the 31st to be kept current with the expenditure of that particular project, given it's a fairly significant one. Thank you.
Any other councillors on that? No. Councillor Watling, do you need any reply? Going to a vote on that, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.2. We have a recommendation that pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, Council does not object to the application for a permanent road closure over the road reserve off Emu Swamp Road, Somme, adjoining lot 1 on RP 898629, subject to this parcel being amalgamated with the existing lot. Pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, Council does not object in 8629, subject to this parcel being amalgamated with the existing lots. And pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, Council does not object to the application for a permanent road closure over the road reserve of Somme Lane, Somme, adjoining lot 4 on SP 332458, subject to this parcel being amalgamated with the existing lots. Councillor Haslett, are you happy to move as portfolio holder?
I am, yes.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Dean, thank you. Okay, over to you, Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, the report is quite clear, I think, and I look at it and think this is what we might safely assume to be good agricultural land that we're talking about, which has been raised this morning in a couple of other people's speeches in different sections. So I think it's a great way that we are actually looking at properly and most efficiently using our good ag land to do this. So I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you. Is anyone speaking against the motion today? No. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion?
I've just got one question.
Yes, Councillor.
I just couldn't find it in there. Can we confirm these closures won't affect current or future access to any neighbouring properties?
Yes, through you, Mayor, we can confirm that that's not going to be the case. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does any other councillor want to speak for the motion? Okay, going to vote on that. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 13.3, we have a recommendation that Council, pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, objects to the application for a permanent road closure over the road reserve of East Street, Warwick, adjoining lot 2 on RP 189353. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Haslett?
I am happy to move that
And
one.
a seconder, Councillor Bartley, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Haslett.
Thank you. I do support this recommendation to refuse this one, as in our corporate plan, which we've recently endorsed as a group of councillors. One of the items in there is that we will support our community to be active and connected. This route is used by a lot of people who walk. It's definitely a connecting route for people who walk, and I would hate to see that be stopped in any way. In fact, it should be encouraged.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Councillor Ritters.
Thanks, Mayor. I actually would have liked the opportunity to actually move this motion, because I also fully agree that it's the right approach. This is a heavily walked area. It's almost an essential part of our walking tracks around the Condolences River in Warwick. And I would be vehemently against seeing that go away, and I don't think a private easement really fits the bill. Also importantly, one of council's water mains runs right through there, and creating more difficulty around our ability to maintain that. It would be very bad indeed. In fact, that entire section of the track is almost historical. When you look at the sandstone around that particular section of the area, it is fantastic. And the thought of that being closed and people not being able to access it is unconscionable. And I also believe, if that's a word, is it a word? Unconscionable, whatever. And thank you. And I also actually believe that instead of potentially closing this section of the road, we should actually be looking at how we could link this road back to the bridge so that there's a full loop around the Condolences River for people to walk. So I am very much in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor Richters put his hand up, but he was not speaking against, so I'll just check if anyone is speaking against the motion. No, okay. Anyone else? Councillor Liddell?
I just agree with all the comments so far, and I agree with Councillor Richters when he said he would have liked to have moved on. I'm sure that we would all be happy to move this one, because I'm pretty sure that, I feel just shut off any future ideas for that area. And it's not just used by people walking, it's cyclists as well. And it actually provides very convenient access from one side of the river to the other, and particularly with the school at the top there and all the residents in that area, they use that frequently. So it's really a must that it stays as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley?
Firstly, I'd just like to thank our officers for making a diligent decision and putting it in report to recommend against the closure. And that follows on from many other council officers in previous councils who've presented the same thing. I think even Scots College proposed a closure at one point in time. But we've, as a community, insisted on that staying open. There's lots of reasons. Historic part, that sandstone cutting is quite unique, and it's a weir in its own right, and it's a form of entertainment for people to watch the water flow through there. So I think it's a good recommendation from our officers, and I'm glad and congratulate them on their report.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Any other councillors?
That's all been said.
Councillor Haslett, do you want to
No, I think that's
going to a vote on that? All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We have a recommendation that Council pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994 does not object to the application for a permanent 8668. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Haslett?
I am happy to move it.
And a seconder? Councillor Windle, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I think this is a bit of a no-brainer. When I look at it, it is one of those roads to nowhere, intersecting a lot, potentially taking up good agricultural land. I see no reason why we would not agree with this recommendation.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against this one? No? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? No. Going to a vote on that? All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And I think back to 1994, does not object to the application for a permanent road closure over the road reserve off Ghost Gate Road, Goomburra, adjoining lot 179 on SP 296594. Happy to move that, Councillor Haslett. Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Pigeon, thank you.
As with a couple of the other ones, I think that this is a road reserve that is taking up otherwise good agricultural land. It certainly is one that I looked really closely at because as soon as I saw the name Ghost Gate Road, I knew there was a connection to quite a bit of regional history there. And so I have done some due diligence and made sure that this is not going to hinder any access to that history, given the parts that are being recommended for closure. So I'm happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you. Is anyone speaking against? No, Councillor Pigeon.
Thanks. The road reserve is not formed or maintained by council. Neighbouring properties still retain access through the Goomburra Road, and council has identified no future requirement for the land. And the proposed use of grazing keeps that in the rural use, so I support this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to that one? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to a permit to occupy, we have a recommendation that council, pursuant to section 177A of the Land Act 1994, does not object to a request for an application for a permit to occupy over part of the road reserve adjacent to Lot 3 on RP 72581 along Sundown Road for the purposes of establishing a pump site. Councillor Wantling, are you happy to move this one as portfolio holder? Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Wantling.
I support this recommendation. It provides more reliable access to an existing licensed water supply, and the road reserve is unformed with no council assets.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Wantling. Does anyone want to speak against this motion? No. Anyone else want to speak for? Councillor Haslett.
Just briefly I concur with what Councillor Watling just said. We've checked that this is all legitimate in terms of the water licence, so it seems like a very important thing actually for people in our region to be able to have access to water at this time.
Councillor Haslett. Any other councillors? No. I will say also I think it's very important for us to be able to support people in accessing their water entitlements. As we know, they're very hard to get in our region, and if people have water entitlements, I think anything that we can do to help them access that is a good idea. It also supports our producers, and as this is one of our top award-winning wineries, it is very important not just for our agricultural industry but for our tourism industry as well. So I'm very supportive of this recommendation. Councillor Wantling, do you want to write a reply at all? No? Going to a vote on that? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to the licence to occupy, we have a recommendation that council apply the exception in section 2361C of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to the disposal of the interest in lot 250 on BNT 1599 and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer and Delegated Officer to negotiate and complete any documents and dealings necessary to implement Council's decision to issue the licence to occupy part of Fred Rogers Camp to Granite Belt Ladies Shed. Councillor Wantling, are you happy to move that as portfolio holder? Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor McDonald, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Wantling.
Yeah, I support the officer's recommendation. The Granite Belt Ladies Shed has been using the site for several years, and this 3-year licence provides certainty and supports an important community benefit. Thank you.
Permanent home out at Fred Rogers, and I think that what they do for women, particularly in the Granite Belt, is excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Ritters. Councillor Windle.
Thank you. Just to add to that, I know that there'll be a lot of relief felt within that group now that they know they have some certainty for their group into the future, and they can continue to go ahead and achieve what they've already been achieving as a small group, or sometimes it's bigger than others, but they do some great things for each other, and I think it's just like the men's shed, but it's a ladies' shed, so it's great, and I'd really love to see more of it throughout our region as well. So it's great. It's a great outcome.
No, Councillor Pigeon.
I concur with the comments around the table.
Thank you. Any other councillors? No. Do you want to reply at all, Councillor Wantling? No. Going to a vote on that. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 13.8. We have a recommendation that council resolve pursuant to section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009 to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer all the powers of the local government conferred under the instruments stipulated in the updated delegations register. I will move that one. Are you happy to second, Deputy Mayor? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I would like to move an amendment motion to add at the end of the recommendation. I think, Di, I've sent you the wording. With the condition on section 262 of the Local Government Act being changed to, quote, delegate to CEO with the condition that the power can be further delegated subject to financial delegations and on the condition that the power can only be exercised within the area of responsibility. I I'm moving that. Do I have a seconder for
I'm
that?
happy to second that.
Thank you, councillor Windle.
Yeah, can I move a procedural motion?
Yes.
Yep, that the motion now before the meeting be adjourned to the.
Sorry, point of order, Mayor. A procedural motion can't be moved whilst there's an amendment motion, is there? I don't know. Would we have to deal with the amendment before procedural motion?
You can during debate, so as we're opening the debate
Okay.
on the amendment, I think it can be moved.
You're right. The motion now before the meeting be adjourned to the next ordinary council meeting. The purpose of the adjournment is to allow council to be provided with a complete dated delegated register, a comparison showing every addition, delegation and change, including the condition proposed to be removed, clarification regarding former section 150 AF, which has actually been repealed as of the 1st of July 2026, and further information about the financial reporting and governance controls that will apply. This is not an attempt to prevent the CEO or staff from carrying out their day-to-day work of council. I understand the appropriate delegations are necessary for the organisation to operate efficiently. However, council is being asked to delegate all the powers contained in an updated register that is not attached to this report. The report refers only to some changes and does not confirm that the table contains every change. It also says the conditions previously imposed are being changed, but does not identify all those existing conditions or explains why they should be removed. After investigation.
Yeah, it's a
Point of order,
procedure.
Mayor. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to hear what councillor Watling has to say about this, the procedural motion can't be debated or.
Your procedural motion is simply to the first bit that you read about the adjournment. Yes, going to a vote. Those in favour of the adjournment? It's Councillors Richters, Watling, Bartley and McDonald, and those against, Councillors Dean, Pidgeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. That procedural motion is lost. We go back to the amendment motion. I will say, councillors, that as per our briefing, the delegations were made available and are sitting here, but have been available since our briefing for anyone to inspect. And what did we inherit in March 2024? I want to just take us back a little bit. We inherited a council that was mired in red tape and bogged down in paperwork. In our recent community survey, only 61% of people were satisfied with their contact with council, and much of that comes back to red tape and paperwork. Since 2025, with our new CEO and executive leadership team, we have been on a journey to transform council. Improving efficiency doesn't just improve our residents' experience with council, it saves ratepayers money.
Point of order, Mayor, did your amendment get seconded?
Yes, councillor Windle seconded.
It's just not listed up there, that's all, just the
sorry.
original one is there, but not the
Yes.
amendment.
The amendment was seconded, thank you.
Yeah, yes, but there's the
Yeah,
moving and the seconding.
Oh, I
of-
see, okay.
Improving efficiency doesn't just improve our residents' experience with council, it saves ratepayers money. Delegations are a key part of improving efficiency. Put simply, they are the concrete way that we can cut red tape and cut costs. The state government says delegations in councils serve a strategic purpose by allowing councils to focus on high-level decision-making and strategic issues while ensuring that day-to-day operations are managed effectively. This delegation process is essential for the efficient governance of councils and helps in the effective use of resources and the development of efficient management practices. Proper management of delegations is integral in ensuring the enforceability of decisions and actions and in preventing adverse legal and administrative consequences for the council. That's according to the state government. To date, delegations at this council has been a manual process in spreadsheets. We are now moving to a single online system which also streamlines the updates process provided by the Local Government Association of Queensland and King & Company. It offers better protections to ensure staff are operating within their delegations. And it brings us into line with other Queensland councils so that the cost of updates is largely borne by the Local Government Association of Queensland rather than borne by staff and our ratepayers. As part of our improvement of governance at Council, streamlining the delegations process was identified as part of our Delegations Uplift project and aligns with recommendations from our internal auditors. Proper delegations, as recommended by the Local Government Association of Queensland and King & Co, stop employees getting bogged down in paperwork. They are simple and strategic. They improve turnaround times and they reduce costs. Most of all, delegations ensure operational matters are dealt with by staff, leaving strategic matters to Council. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against my amendment motion? No. Does anyone else want to speak for? Thank you, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I'm supportive of this amendment motion and of this delegation. Delegation is an important part of the CEO's role, and if we want to improve efficiency across the organisation, we need to make sure that the CEO has the appropriate authority to manage the day-to-day operations of Council. This is really about reducing unnecessary red tape and allowing decisions to be made at the appropriate level. It also means that Council can remain focused on the bigger picture, strategy, policy, and the issues that matter most to our community, rather than becoming involved in routine operational matters. As you can see in the report, this approach is consistent with the advice from LGAQ and will be implemented by other councils in Queensland. It is simply intended to help streamline our processes and to make better use of ratepayers' money and staff resources. At the end of the day, do we really want our CEO spending council time and resources on things like signing off on invitations to Australia Day event? Or would we rather have them focused on the strategic direction of our organisation and delivering for our community? I see this delegation as giving our CEO the tools to do her job efficiently, while Council continues to provide the appropriate oversight and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pigeon.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the staff for the work that's gone into this. These folders were available to us to access at any point, and the SIS we were provided was very clear, and therefore I support this delegation framework. Delegations allow routine and operational matters to be dealt.
Mayor. I'm just curious because we're talking about the amendment now, correct? Not the actual substantive motion. Just wanted to clarify that because I think that maybe Councillor Pigeon and Councillor Dean are not necessarily speaking to your amendment, but more broadly the overall substantive motion.
Still works with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just pointing out that they're reducing the red tape, avoiding the duplication and allowing the council meetings to focus on strategic and significant matters. Every unnecessary report, meeting discussion or approval process consumes staff time and public money. These costs are untimely carried by ratepayers. Ratepayers want the CEO and staff delivering services, managing projects and solving problems, not spending time preparing reports or seeking council approval for matters that could be handled administratively. The Mayor is responsible for managing the CEO. Councillors should focus on governance, policy, strategy, budget and accountability, rather than becoming involved in day-to-day administration. Delegation is not a loss of accountability. It is a practical way for Council to set direction while allowing the CEO and staff to get on with delivering it. I support the framework provided by the delegated decisions, remaining within Council policies, budget, legal obligations and normal reporting arrangements.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Does anyone else want to speak? We had no speaking against. Anyone else speaking for the amendment? No? Okay. I don't need a reply on that amendment. Going to a vote on the amendment. Those in favour? Councillors Dean, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. Okay, going back to the original motion as amended. Does anyone want to speak against that motion?
I have some questions.
Councillor Lockley?
Is the table in this report a complete list of every change to the existing delegation register, or does it identify only some of the changes? What is the date and version number of the updated delegated register referred to in this recommendation? Why is the updated register not attached to the public agenda report? Can officers confirm that the register council is being asked to approve today is the same version previously provided to councillors? I'll take no notice, I just have a few more. Section 150 AF, councillor conduct. Section 150 AF was repealed on the 1st of July this year. Why are we being asked to delegate a power that has been repealed? I notice.
I'm waiting for the rest of your questions.
Rightio. Is this power being kept only so council can finish a matter that is that began before the 1st of July? What else have I got here? What condition currently applies to the section 262 delegation? Why is that existing condition being changed? What condition would this delegation allow the CEO to make that the CEO cannot already make? Does it include the power to enter contracts on council's behalf? Does it include the power to acquire, deal with or dispose of council property? What financial, contractual and property limits apply? Could the CEO personally exercise this power for a matter of any financial value without referring to council? That's just the important ones that I think that I can.
There's a lot there. Thank you, councillor, for your question. The delegations that are before me are dated June 2025. The particular reference to 150, I'll take on notice and ask Anthony to have a look at that for you and come back to you. In terms of specific items that wouldn't sit within the staff remit, as per my email, I think I sent that last week or the week before, so things like invitations to Australia Day, to be able to organise catering for councillor briefings, workshops, etc. And in terms of the specifically around financial management contract and property, that property disposal sits within a very specific section within the Act, and there are very, very specific and very tight guidelines that you must follow to even think about disposal of any asset. Contractual and financial sits within all the approved budget and the financial delegations and the procurement policy.
I'm just a bit concerned about the 150 delegation being repealed.
Can you speak to that by any chance?
Certainly, through Chair, essentially anything that has come through the King and Company update, which was around July, they've sent it through. So presumably it just hasn't been picked up when King and Company have pieces of legislation that have been repealed, they haven't picked it up. It's not a specific thing that I'm consciously leaving in for a reason. Noting, as you say, that section's been repealed, I'm happy to take that on notice and remove that delegation, Councillor.
As I'm aware, if there's an investigation before that time, well, that would be the only reason that still would be in there.
It wasn't the intent, but that might be why King and Company haven't removed it, from their push of updates for those councils that are still undertaking those. So that's why. Certainly it would be normally where legislation is repealed, King and Company push it through. I think they do it twice through. The last time this was updated was 2 years ago, so there's been a lot of legislative change and changes.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Councillor Richters, you were
thank-
going to speak for the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Conditions around use, and I appreciate the time that the CEO, the rest of the ELT and governance put into considering those suggestions and the response I received that the CEO just referred to. I remain uncomfortable with how broad the delegation is, even more so now. The examples given to me included the council of catering and Australia Day invitations, grant applications, insurance claims, etc. Nobody wants council voting on tea and coffee, but section 262 doesn't say about tea and coffee. It gives the CEO power to do anything necessary or convenient for performing council's responsibilities. I would still prefer some safeguards around significant or unusual decisions. And I think that is probably what many people in our community would prefer too. But I have listened to the operational concerns raised by the CEO, and so therefore I won't seek to move any amendments to conditions on section 262 today. There are, however, two much narrower areas in the planning delegation where I do think we should make a change. We recently had the change application for Corson Mill determined under council. I'm not seeking to revisit the merits of that decision today, but importantly, I'm not the only person who has questioned how the decision was made. Council received media questions specifically asking why the matter was decided under delegated authority rather than by the elected councillors, and whether there were limitations requiring it to come back to council. And I think that is a reasonable question. And rather than argue about what the delegation should have meant after a decision has been made, we have an opportunity today to make it clear for the future. If council made the original decision, council should decide whether that decision is subsequently changed. More broadly, we're a development to make that decision. That does not mean every planning application comes to council. Routine applications should continue to be dealt with efficiently under delegation. Make councillors spectators to decisions our community reasonably expects us to make. So I do have two amendments. The first amendment, which I have sent through to Di, is that the delegation on page 197 of the delegations register, being the power to act as assessment manager for all development applications, be amended by adding additional condition C, that development applications are likely to cause significant community concern. There's already two prior submissions were received, so I'm proposing to add a third condition, that development applications that are likely to cause significant community concern. And anyway, if the amendment gets up, I'll talk to that just very briefly.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment motion? Councillor Bartley.
I would just like to point out that the addition of this extra clause.
We're voting on your amendment separate, so we're voting on this amendment motion and then
And then the second one, yes. Because they're very different in different parts of the, well, not very different, but they are different in wording and different sections of the delegations register. So this one is really just about identifying where there is a decision or an application that is going to cause significant concern to the community, that the CEO has the condition that it needs to come to a council meeting. There's no definition proposed around what is a significant community concern. That should be for the staff to determine. But nonetheless, it gives the ability there for those applications to come to us.
I have a question, Councillor Richter's, to put through to the staff. Firstly, I guess the question is in two parts. Firstly, in terms of delegated planning decisions, is there an existing mechanism for council to be able to call up decisions? And secondly, is a condition that the condition that Councillor Richter's is proposing, does that lead to uncertainty in what comes to council and therefore an avenue of potential complaint and objection for people whose matters are decided, where they can say they're not properly decided because of the uncertainty around a likely provision? I know in law we always try to avoid provisions that talk about if something is likely. So do we have either from, I guess, planning?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, for the question. I can answer the second part of that, is that significant concern is far too ambiguous for us to be able to actually operationalise. There is no way to measure that. And the short answer to your question is yes, it does open us up to considerable uncertainty and ambiguity. Could I perhaps refer to the General Manager about the first question, please?
Come and join the table, it's all right.
Do you want to sit with the delegations?
Yeah.
They're all here.
So my understanding from officers, and appreciate I'm new to council, but my understanding is how it currently works is there's nothing formally written in the delegations around this. But how it has worked in the past is if councillors have expressed concerns around community interest in a particular development application, they've raised that with the mayor, who's then raised it with the CEO to not exercise the delegation, in which case it comes to council as the council report is the way of practice, I guess, for this council. So that's my understanding.
Well, I totally, thank you, and that's exactly what I thought it would be. The purpose of the amendment was to try and put that into wording.
Thank you. Okay, is anyone speaking against the amendment?
I just had a question. With this amendment, is there any risks that might come to fruition because of this amendment in terms of with council?
Thank you, through the Mayor, thank you for your question. I've only just been made aware of the amendment, so we haven't had the opportunity to give it a fulsome review. But from a legal standpoint, absolutely, there's considerable risk because, as I mentioned earlier, what constitutes significant community concern? The matter that was referred to by Councillor Richters, on further investigation, there is one community member who has significant concern about that particular matter. Does that constitute concern across the whole community? I don't know, that's too ambiguous, I can't answer that question.
Thank you.
Anyone speaking against the motion? I think I'll just wrap up. My questions are my concerns that one, it opens council up to far more legal challenges by applicants or submitters because there is a loophole in the process, and that has impacts for us both in an insurance and a litigation sense. I think if we are going to change delegations, we have to be absolutely sure that we are not opening ourselves up to additional costs, that we're not adding red tape for most applications that should actually go through smoothly. And so I'd be concerned just with the breadth of that change. I absolutely understand what Councillor Richters is trying to achieve, but I don't feel comfortable with what's been proposed. Does anyone else want to speak for that amendment? Councillor Hartley.
Following on, Mayor, maybe we could get, if we were to or consider, previously we've had experience as a council where staff had that delegation and the decision was very contentious, and we ended up with deputations to council, and eventually that ended up in a legal process anyhow. So I think we are a small enough region to know what it would be regarded as contentious. And it's not just one person, it's a group of people or an area of people that will raise concerns. The problem is, if it's done by delegation automatically, what happens is we hear from the groups after it's been delegated and either approved or not approved. We hear from the groups after the fact, and that becomes a real issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Anyone else? That amendment.
Mayor, I'd just like to point out for the rest of the councillors that thank you for the feedback, I guess, on that. Just want to point out this particular amendment was not intended and would not have changed the outcome of the Corsa Mill application, because that's the next one. So.
Going to a vote on that amendment. Those in favour? Councillors Richters, Watling, Bartley and McDonald, and those against? Councillors Dean, Pigeon, Huslett, Windle and Hamilton. That amendment is lost. Your next amendment.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So the next one isn't ambiguous. So the delegation on page 198 of the Delegations Register, being the power to act as the responsible entity for all change applications, be conditioned as follows: that this power does not include deciding change applications where the original decision being changed was made by council.
Bartley, thank you. Speak to
Yeah,
that
thank you.
amendment.
This one is specifically what the Corsa Mill decision would have been around about. The original decision of the original application was decided by resolution of council, wasn't decided by delegated authority. And now the subsequent change application that came to council was approved by delegated authority, and where this condition would have said that if the original decision was made by council by resolution in chambers, then any subsequent change to that application needs to come back to the chamber for council to decide on.
In our planning department, what we hear time and time again is people want it to be faster, and they want it, and time is money. So faster also means more cost effective. For example, if we had a decision that was made at council and someone came back to change the landscaping buffer from 60 plants to 50 plants, that would then need to come back to council. So it would need to come to a CIS, or the staff would need to work up a report for CIS. It would need to come to us, and then it would need to come to a council meeting for a relatively minor change. This is not how we improve the efficiency of planning in this organisation. I appreciate your concern, but I do think this is far too broad and will lead to huge delays in many planning applications who are seeking a minor change to a council-decided application. Anyone else speaking for the amendment? Councillor Bartley.
And thanks, Mayor. I guess it's what minor change versus major change, how you define that or how you measure that is in the wording of how you would put that in the delegation. And I guess if you get the right wording, we can do that properly. 50 trees down to 40, whatever, is a minor change. Change of hours of operation is what I consider a major change, especially when there's impacts, assessable impacts, and we're seeing that now firsthand. And I guess we're learning by experience, but this is a chance for us to improve things, and I think we need to explore it.
Through the chair, just note to Councillor Bartley's point that the definition of minor and major is outlined in the Act, which gives us the heads of power.
Mayor, thanks Councillor Bartley for that, because I actually...
No, any more fours? Back to you, Councillor
Yeah,
Winters.
thanks, Mayor. I actually intended that to be the change applications, not the minor change applications. So I'd like to add it in brackets after change, not minor, because it was intended to be the change applications, not minor change applications. And my wording was a change application, an actual change application versus a minor change application. But if that's not clear, I think that it probably should be added in there after change.
Are you happy with that change as the second, Councillor Bartley?
I just had a question. Can I get the maybe opinion or advice from staff members on how this would affect planning applications? Like, is it going, and time-wise, money, that kind of thing? Is there just a little bit of guidance so we can make a decision?
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dean, for the question. Yes, we'll be, if this application is approved, we'll be employing another town planner to manage this process, which is the better part of, off the top of my head, 130, 140k.
Just a second, is it a question?
Yeah, could the CEO clarify that comment? Because in order to make that comment, you would need to know how many applications were decided by council resolution and then how many change applications were made because of it.
I'll take that on notice.
Anyone else speaking against the amendment motion? Anyone else speaking for the amendment motion? You have a right of reply, Councillor Riches.
No, I think it's pretty clear. It is about change applications, not minor change applications, and that where a council has made the decision, where council has democratically looked at a report, made a decision in favour or not in favour, well, actually in favour, because otherwise we wouldn't be having it, right? In favour of a application, then council should then be the ones that decide any of the significant changes that happen following that decision. Because the community expects that where we have made the original decision, we also then make any changes to that decision.
Okay, going to a vote on that. Those in favour? Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. Those against? Councillors Dean, Pigeon, Haslett, Brindle and Hamilton. That one has failed. So we are back at the original motion as amended. And I am the mover of that motion. I think I have spoken to it fairly fully with the First Amendment, but what I would like to say is, again, I understand where Councillor Richters was coming from, but I think it's far too broad and would potentially bring too many decisions back with the resultant delay and cost, both to council and to the applicant. We are at a transformational time where we are trying to improve customer response times and service standards. As outlined, there is a mechanism for council to be able to pull matters up to council level. And while I appreciate Councillor Bartley says we often hear about it after the decision is made, if there are submitters, if there are interested parties, they can raise it with us beforehand and we can actually pull those decisions back up. But I think that would keep it much smaller than requiring ones that may not need to come to council to. As I said before, delegations are a concrete way to cut red tape. By moving to the online system stuff, because it will be able to be automatically updated and automatically updated regularly. I'd remind us that we have an obligation to review this annually, which has been very difficult when it has been in hard copy occasionally if there is a substantive update from King & Co. I will open that up now to anyone who wants to speak against the original motion. Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Mayor, for responsibility on our CEO. So that's a bit of a concern to me. Also, the fact is that our CEO may be forced to make decisions. I'm very conscious of that. I'm very conscious, particularly in Delegation 62, that, you know, it's compensation. It could be very small compensation. We haven't set at the end of it all, I see us spending less time around the table and the CEO spending more time in her office. So I know we're tasked with making strategic decisions.
Are you speaking for the motion, Councillor? Question. Yep.
Could the CEO please provide us with the number of change applications, not minor change applications, that have been decided in the last 2 years that were changed from an original decision that was made by resolution of council?
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. We'll take it on notice.
Thanks.
Anyone speaking for the motion? Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. Wonderful discussion around the room, and I also appreciate and understand what you're trying to do, Councillor Richters. I guess where I sit and why I voted the way I have on this is because I have faith and trust in both our CEO and the staff around her, particularly the staff in governance who are putting this delegation together. They have also sought extensive advice, obviously, from King & Company, who have more knowledge in this area than I have or will ever have. So I have faith that the due diligence has been done here to make sure that this is as it should be. And as a layperson without a background in law, I don't see it as my position to be going and suggesting changes to what is essentially a very legal and tight document. Councillor Bartley has spoken about the potential that the CEO would spend more time in her office should this be passed. Well, on to that, I would say I trust and believe that she does and would hope that she does spend a lot of time in her office making sure that the papers that come to our CISs and our agendas on our OCMs have all been thoroughly reviewed before they come to us anyway. So I honestly don't see how this does put her spending more time doing that work. I think she does it anyway. I think it is her role to do that anyway. As councillors, the CEO is the only person who we have any influence over, whether they are or aren't employed by the council. So I feel like there are already the checks and balances required if ever there was to be a situation where this got out of hand and out of control. And finally, there in the report, there is actually one sentence in there that I do disagree with in this report, and it's in the financial implications, where it says that there are no financial implications to this process. I believe that there are huge financial implications if we do not approve what is listed here today. As the CEO has pointed out, this could potentially result in us having to employ extra staff members, but all of the extra time that has to go into this, including the time that it takes for members of our community to have to wait for their applications to be processed until the next OCM, which is 1 month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months down the track. It is, I believe, the single biggest frustration that our community has with council and with us as councillors is the timeframes and the red tape and the bureaucracy that they have to go through to make things happen. And anything that we can do, that still sits within the boundaries of the legal advice that we have given, but anything that we can do to make that process more efficient for everyone in our community, including ourselves and our staff, is a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Is it a question? No. Anyone speaking against the motion? Councillor McDonald.
Certainly, Mayor. As I sit around this table, this is quite new actually, and congratulations to whichever person obviously put the our pillars or our themes up in regards to our corporate plan. Responsible management. This is a concern to me. I've worked with delegations before extensively within the military. For 16 years I've watched delegations. They need to be managed. And it is a concern to me at times that there can be too much delegation. And we, as elected members, are here for a reason. I'm not here and never will be here to rubber stamp something. If it's divisive, I want to see it. I want to see it in front of me, and I want my colleagues to see it. I want you to be able to make a reasonable and logical decision that is fully informed by our staff. And I believe that's why we have 420 or 430 staff to advise us. I don't believe that matters can just be delegated away because it makes it easier. Now, we've had the Corson Mill. That's a perfect example. And yes, it's one example. But there's a lot more than that in the 6 years that I've sat around this table where I've found out after the fact when there has been a divisive community issue come to my attention and I have been blindsided by a constituent who's walked up to me and said, "What do you know about this, Cynthia?" That makes me, as an elected official, very, very uncomfortable. We've staffed for a reason. We are here for a reason. We are here to ensure that we are the checks and the balances. If something is brought before us, I expect us to make a reasoned and logical decision. I don't expect that we delegate to the extent that some of these broad delegations are asking for. For those reasons, I certainly, and from my perspective, I cannot support what I'm seeing in front of me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Someone speaking for the motion, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I am happy with the delegation that is presented before us today. I'm also happy with the details power listed in the report. One of them in particular that was mentioned before, the compensation payable delegated to the CEO. It says in the conditions that the CEO brings the confidential briefing to council as soon as possible. So it's not like we won't be informed by the choice by the CEO and we will be briefed on that. So I am comfortable with that. Again, this is really about reducing unnecessary red tape and allowing decisions to be made but at the appropriate level. This approach is consistent with the advice from the LGAQ and will be implemented by other Queensland councils. It is simply intended to help streamline our processes and make better use of our ratepayers' money and staff resources. So I'm happy with the report today. Thank you.
Question, Mayor. Councillor Dean just pointed out that a confidential report would need to come to council. I can't find that in the delegation of 262.
Has it on the recommendation on the side.
But it doesn't actually exist in the line item that's going to go into the register. So can I clarify, will that actually be in the delegation register when it's printed?
Take that on notice.
Councillor Watling speaking against? Yes.
I think it's clear why we'll be voting against the motion. There are simply too many unanswered questions, and I do believe we haven't been given enough information to make a properly informed decision. The conditions being removed have not been fully explained, and the report includes a repealed section without clearly explaining why it's still required. I was elected to make decisions on behalf of the residents of the Southern Downs. While I understand that appropriate delegations are necessary for council to operate efficiently, some of the powers before us are matters I believe councillors should remain involved in. This is not about stopping the organisation from doing its job. It is about making sure council fully understands what authority it is handing over and what safeguards will remain. On the information before us today, I cannot support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Speaking for Councillor Windle.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I just want to thank everybody for the time that they've taken to bring this all together and for the comments that have already been made. And I'm not going to try and repeat it. I want to thank Councillor Haslett. She summed up nicely what my thoughts were. But just a couple of things that I want to talk about here is Councillor McDonald mentioned responsible management, which is in our corporate plan. And it clearly says that the goal for that is we will lead with integrity and strong governance. We will make responsible decisions that support long-term financial sustainability while building a positive, safe and high-performing culture within council and the community. I think that's what that's all about in that amendment. I also just want to draw your attention to the report where it says certain powers, such as where an act requires the power to be exercised by resolution, will remain with council. It should additionally be noted that matters delegated to the CEO may be brought to council by the CEO on a case-by-case basis. My point of bringing that out is that I have every confidence in our CEO and our staff. We do have very good staff there, and I don't think that they are going to jeopardise themselves in any way by making a decision that they may think may be detriment to the organisation or themselves. I put my trust in them, and I know that they will come back to us if they feel that it's necessary to do so. Every time I speak to a constituent about a planning matter or other things that they've tried to get from council, it's all about things take too long, there's too much red tape, get it sorted. We're trying to get it sorted here, and I trust the CEO and the staff that she has working with her to make those responsible decisions under their responsible management.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Anyone else speaking against? No? Anyone else speaking for? Councillor Pigeon?
Obviously I spoke before, but I just want to add, I understand people do not like change. I totally get that, but this is considered change. There's been a lot of work going into this, and it is not as though we are going into it without having full information presented to us to make our decisions. So that is why I can support this with 100% faith.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Anyone else? No. I will have a right of reply. And I want to reinforce that delegations should be able to be updated regularly and quickly, which is what moving to this system does for us. Despite the obligation in the Local Government Act, in the last council term, delegations were only reviewed once. in breach of the Local Government Act. We don't want to be in that same position. We want a system that works quickly and efficiently, that's aligned with other Queensland councils. And basically, as the Deputy Mayor pointed out, it comes down to trust and having a good CEO who knows when to escalate matters to council. All the delegations in the world did not save the previous council from the situation where the first rabbit seed lettuce permit was decided without coming to council, and I think that might have been referred to by someone. Delegations are there to make sure we have the day-to-day operations operating effectively, timely, but at the end of the day, we need to trust our CEO to know when to escalate unusual matters that can't be ever covered in a delegation. You look at the size of that, and if you're going to build in every eventuality, it would never happen. Why I have put my amendment through earlier is to address some of those concerns of Councillor Bartley. It does specifically tie it to our financial delegation limits. So we have some boundaries around that section 262, and also making sure it's within people's area of responsibility. Okay, going to a vote on that. Those in favour? Councillors Dean, Pidgeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. That is carried. And I will move to adjourn the meeting for morning tea. All in favour? That's unanimous.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, welcome back, councillors. We're up to item 15.1 in our agenda, and we have a recommendation that the development application for a development permit for a material change of use for the purpose of roadside stall and food and drink outlet van on land at 21484 New England Highway, Dalveen, described as Lot 2 RP 196907, be approved subject to conditions. Are you happy to move that, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I did too.
Seconder, Councillor Watling? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, over to you, Councillor Wintle.
Thank you. Look, I think this is a great initiative. I think it's always interesting when we're driving around, either whether it's in this region or elsewhere, and you see the little roadside stalls, and occasionally we may get to stop, and other times we drive on by, and you often wonder what goodies they might have had in there that we could have taken advantage of or made use of. So I think that this particular application is not just the roadside stall, it's also the food and drink outlet as well, which they're going to use in peak periods, which is a sensible thing to do when we have busy times, such as events in the region, or whether they think that, you know, summertime's going to bring more people, or whether that could even be winter. But they'll know when it's our busy period, and that's when they'll be putting that to good use. So I see this as a great thing, not only just for the locals and probably neighbours that live around there, but also for tourists who might be travelling through the region. Once word gets out amongst people who are travelling that there's a great little roadside stall somewhere, they will want to be pulling up there as well and get to know where it is. So I think it's a great initiative, and I look forward to stopping and having a look at it myself sometime, and perhaps making a purchase.
Thank you. Is it a question, Councillor McDonald? Or,
No.
Speaking against?
No.
Okay, is anyone speaking against? Councillor? No? Okay, speaking for, Councillor McDonald.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Wintle. I absolutely agree with your sentiments, 100%. Well put, and I look forward to actually seeing it as well.
Thank you. Councillor Richters, and then
Thanks,
Councillor
Mayor.
Watling.
Likewise, I think this is a great little rural enterprise idea, and I visited there on the weekend and bought some lovely cookies, which I think were very, very nice. So I can attest to how good I think the idea is. I do have concerns about one of the conditions that I think that it's just a little bit too much, and that it is probably not enforceable by the person who runs a business, and that is the one that talks about ensuring that no one eats or drinks there. I think that the sentiment would have been that there shouldn't have been any provision for people to sit or stay, but physically stopping someone from drinking a can of Coke is probably outside the remit. So I'd probably just ask the staff maybe look at that standard condition for the future. There is one condition though that I will move an amendment to, which is condition 19. And so I move that we amend condition 19 so that it reads wastewater generated on the site must be lawfully collected and disposed of. The reason I'm moving that, would you like to get a seconder for that first, Mayor?
Yes, definitely. I'm just trying to find condition 19. What page of the agenda are you on?
I don't know what page it's on, it's condition 19.
Okay, so that's an amendment. Yeah, and a seconder for that amendment. Councillor Bartley.
Mayor, the reason I move that amendment is because the Standard Plumbing and Drainage Regulation 2003 was repealed on the 1st of July 2019, and I have had a quick chat to the General Manager before today's meeting about that. And this effectively just removes that and says that the person who has the site needs to comply with the current legislation.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. I have a question for staff as to whether the planning staff are happy with that amendment.
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. Through you.
Yeah, through the chair. Councillor Richters is correct. That regulation specifically was updated in 2019. Updating that reference to 2019 wouldn't materially change, I guess, the impact of that. If you keep it general, it doesn't direct the applicant to the specific codes that we need them to address. So I would recommend that council maintain the wording as is, but substitute 2003 for 2019 would be my call on that.
Just to clarify, Mayor, the legislation was repealed and wasn't replaced. It was replaced by the Plumbing and Drainage Act, I believe.
It's regulation subject to, through the chair, subject to the act itself. So I understand councillors' sentiments and wanting to make it more generalised. My concern is it does make it too generalised then, and it allows too much discretion. So it does need to refer to the relevant Australian standards and legislative requirements, perhaps at time of at commencement of use or something like that, just so that there's a bit more specificity. These are part of a suite of council standing conditions that we apply to all development that has water supply and wastewater services attached to it. So I'm reticent to deviate, I guess, from that, to put in a general condition at this point.
Thank you for that advice. Did you want to speak to the amendment, Councillor Richards?
I'm happy to include the reference in there in regards to the Australian standards. I'm of the belief that the regulation was repealed and wasn't replaced by another just straight out regulation.
Does anyone want to speak against him? Councillor Huston?
Speaking against it, I mean, I appreciate what Councillor Richters has done and proposed, and and good on him for picking that up. However, we've got experts in planning. I would prefer to defer to their opinion on this, given that we've just been given advice that perhaps we do still need an amendment to the year, but I would prefer to defer to the people who work in the area professionally.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Anyone else?
So my question is through you, Mayor, is the amendment as it is up there now, is that still staying as is? Or are you changing that to in any way,
Well, I've
given
just
the
thought
advice we've been given?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I imagine the mayor probably won't let me change the amendment now, but I'm happy to move a subsequent amendment after this one that just replaces the words of the Standard Plumbing and Drainage Regulation 2003 with the Plumbing and Drainage Act of 2018, which is the current relevant reference.
Yeah, we will vote and then we'll change, but we will just get while we're going through that process, we might just get the General Manager Planning to check that wording that you're saying you will put up next. So is everyone happy just to go to a vote on that amendment motion, given that Councillor Richters has indicated he'll move a replacement one? Yep, so those in favour? Councillor Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald, and those against? Councillors Dean, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Okay, and your next amendment motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I move to substitute the words Standard Plumbing and Drainage Regulation 2003 with the Plumbing and Drainage Act 2018.
Okay, and a seconder for that amendment, Councillor Bartley, thank you. And yes, questioning whether a reference to an act rather than a regulation is correct to the General Manager.
Through the chair, looking at the Plumbing and Drainage Regulation 2019 as in effect current as of 2nd of January 2026 on the Queensland legislation website. So.
I couldn't find
to
it,
change
so
that wording?
let's just change the date.
Okay, so the amendment is to change the date from 2003 to 2019. So that's the amendment motion. Are you happy as the seconder with that, Councillor Bartley? Thank you. Okay. Are you happy to
Yeah,
go
that's fine.
to a vote on that? Okay, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay. Back to the original motion, and we had 3 speak for. I'll just check if anyone wants to speak against. No. Then over to councillor Wantling speaking for.
Okay, who doesn't love a good roadside stall? Roadside stalls like this are something we should encourage. They give landholders an opportunity to supplement their income while maintaining the rural use of their property. And they give visitors another reason to stop and spend money in our region. The traffic, safety and planning matters have been assessed and appropriately addressed. This is a small rural enterprise that supports our landholders, agriculture and tourism. I'm very happy to support it.
Thank you, councillor Wantling. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Bartley?
Yes, just to highlight the fact of the amount of red tape you have to go through to just set up a little roadside stall. And hopefully with what we've done this morning, that may be alleviated, we wait and see, but it must be some very committed people to go and do all that, to have a little roadside stall, because we wouldn't anticipate returns to be that immense, but the effort in getting this done and the officers that have had to spend the time to get it over the line, it's quite significant. So it's resource hungry setting up a little roadside stall.
Thank you, councillor Bartley. Councillor Hussett.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth, Councillor Bartley. I agree with what everyone said, that roadside stalls are great. This one has been sitting there for a long time. It's in a safe spot. It hasn't caused any issues up to this point that anybody is aware of. And I just wish these applicants well as they proceed through this. Well done to the council staff in this particular matter for trying to make those conditions workable. They're not done yet. They've still got building approvals at state and federal government level and food licensing approvals to get through. So, I wish them every piece of luck and success in the world, but my goodness, what a load of bureaucratic red tape they've got to get through for a roadside stall.
Thank you, councillor Dean.
I would like to just say that I think everyone's comments here today have been very valuable. More and more people are wanting to buy directly from the farmer or the people that are creating these homemade goods. So I wish them well as well. I do agree there is a lot of red tape around creating a simple roadside stall. I think it's a fantastic way for people to kind of, as Councillor Bartley mentioned, supplement to supplement their income and to kind of share with the local people what they are passionate about. So hopefully in the long term we can look at the red tape around these requirements for roadside stalls, whether it's the state food licensing or the building code. Often people associate that with council, but it is just the requirements that we are enforcing through the requirements that the state and federal have upheld for us to do. So I'm happy with this recommendation today.
Councillor Dean. Councillor Pigeon.
Most of it's been said, but I just want to commend the planning officers on reaching a practical outcome here. It was really well done, and thank you.
Thank you, councillor Pigeon.
I appreciate Di is busy over there, but the screen doesn't show up, and I'm just curious to see that it says now the Plumbing and Drainage Regulation 2019.
I won't add much other than to say that the Productivity Commission has made recommendations to the federal government around the building code. We all hope and pray for the day when someone actually reduces the red tape around building in Australia. We have a state government who have said that they're going to be cutting red tape, but we await any red tape reduction when it comes to food licensing. So I think we see it at base, and as you say, we get blamed for it at council when it's the state and federal governments who add to a lot of that red tape, and we can only hope that they do actually come through with some red tape reduction at some point. Did you want to reply at all, Councillor Windmill, or?
I don't think there's anything more to say.
We'll go to a vote on that. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 15.2, we have a recommendation that the development application for a development permit for a material change of use for the purpose of dual occupancy second dwelling on land at 54 Tunnel Road, Dalveen, formerly described as Lot 1 RP 41534, be approved subject to conditions. Are you happy to move that, Deputy Mayor? And a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Over to you. Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor. I think that we're all very well aware that there's a housing crisis in our region, and not just our region, it's Australia-wide, but where we can make it easier for people to put a second dwelling on a property. I think that that's a good move on our part, and I thank the staff for doing what they've done here. Yes, there's conditions in place, and there's always going to be certain conditions made on almost every application that comes before us, but I think they're all within reason, and I'm happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Does anyone want to speak against the
Just
proposal?
one question. On the report, it says the public notification period did not comply with the development assessment rules as the period of advertising was less than 15 days. Are we legally able to make that decision based on that?
Thank you, councillor, for the question through the Mayor. Can I refer to the General Manager, please?
Yes, we are. So, yeah, council has discretion to accept that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Speaking for?
Yeah, Mayor, like the Deputy Mayor said, housing is so important, and so anything that we can do to increase housing within the region is very welcome. I understand the concerns though around the road accessing the lot, noting full well that the history of it is that this very weirdly shaped block of land at the back actually used to be part of the bigger lot of land that faced the road, and a previous council decision allowed that to be subdivided. And I understand that it's unusual. I'm sure there's other examples, but certainly to me it's unusual that multiple blocks of land would be accessed via an easement as opposed to a road reserve. I would like to ask for advice from the staff, noting full well that they may not be able to give that now, but advice to staff about how easements like this that should really constitute road reserves could be then subsequently changed into road reserves at some point in the future. But nonetheless, I understand the concerns, but still very supportive of housing, so I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. We'll take it on notice.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Haslett?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, look, what you've both said covers it. It's one of those tricky things we have to do as council is deal with what appears to be a very bizarre decision made in the past. And I would hate to see the current applicants be penalised because of that decision that was made when they're trying to do something that looks to me like increase the housing in the region.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Anyone else want to speak to that one? Councillor McDonald?
I'd certainly like to say I endorse it wholeheartedly. And I would like to point out that on page 151 that it says that it does not comply with the minimum 60 metre setback requirement prescribed in the Residential Uses Code for the Southern Downs Planning Scheme. So just to highlight what we were talking about earlier on. And once again, for those of us that do vote for this, it'll be another example of it going through. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Anyone else? I think on a similar vein, I'd just like to say that this is an example, if we ignore the setback, but these secondary dwellings under the new scheme would not require a material change of use. So this is a concrete way where it will become simpler for a secondary dwelling in the rural residential and rural zones.
Are you sure about that, Mayor? Because you wouldn't be able to put a house within 60 metres of a boundary, would you?
No, I was saying ignoring the setback issue. So secondary dwellings on their own.
So not really.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but not yes.
So yes, but it's increasing housing in the region and that is always to be encouraged. Councillor Windle, do you want a reply?
Question, Mayor.
Sorry.
Could we be provided with the total amount of fees that were payable for this application?
Yes, we'll take that on notice.
Thanks.
I think everybody summed it up quite well, Mark.
Okay, all in favour? is unanimous, thank you. Item 15.3, we have
She's conflict of interest.
oh yes.
She did just run away.
We have a recommendation that council refuse the development application for a development permit for reconfiguring a lot for the purpose of a boundary alignment, 3 lots into 3 lots on land at 337 Berat-Forest Springs Road, Forest Springs, formerly described as Lot 9, T4, ML45, Lot 1, SP115536, and Lot 2, SP115536, for the reasons set out below. Councillor Bartley, as the portfolio councillor, are you happy to move that?
I'm just looking at something, Mayor. Just clarifying something for my own conscience, if you can just bear with me for a minute. Because
I'm happy to move it, Mayor.
the day we had the CIS, we had both applicants, the applicant and the submitter in the same room, which I found quite unusual, but I think I
Point
may
of order,
now-
Madam Mayor. An item cannot be discussed before it is moved and seconded.
I may have to declare a conflict. I'm just trying to find out. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to have to declare a conflict, a perceived conflict, and
Yeah.
leave the room, given that, and I'll say it, given the applicant has done work for me and significant amount of work, so I'll leave.
Okay, thank you. Did you get that conflict declaration, Di? Thank you. Councillor Bartley is leaving the room. Councillor Richters is moving this item. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Windle, thank you. Okay, over to you, Councillor Richters.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to appreciate the staff time that went into this particular consideration, especially given that it involved deputations from both the submitter and the applicant. Also like to thank both of those people for coming and presenting to council. It gave, I think, great insight for me, and I'm sure other councillors equally gained insight from it. For me, other than the condition or the reasons that have been set out by the staff for refusing it, I guess primarily because it is strictly against the planning scheme. I also personally don't believe that our council should be supporting lots of land being introduced into, I believe it's called vernacular access. For the people who don't know what that is or can pronounce it, it is where a lot of land, the single lot of land, is divided by a road reserve. In many of the decisions that this council has taken up until now, we have been supporting decisions where people have been reconfiguring their lots to remove this from occurring. So the lots of land are not spread across a road reserve. And I cannot, in any good conscience, support a application that actually does the reverse. So that's why I am happy to support the staff's refusal recommendation.
Do you have a point of order or question, Councillor McDonald?
No, I don't have a point of order.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Anyone else speaking for the motion? Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what Councillor Richters has just said there, that we don't want to have lots that go across roads, I believe, and that's part of our discussions and our planning scheme. But this is another decision like the previous one, where a previous council decision was obviously a very strange one to me because of the way that those 3 lots are already configured. So I do commend the applicant for trying to perhaps come up with a better way to configure those 3 lots. I just think that in this case we need to refuse it because what has been presented to us is not yet that better way.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Any other councillors want to speak to the motion? Councillor.
Just got a question. When one of the subjects they've got to demonstrate whether the land itself is agricultural land and what the capacity of it is, does council do independent soil tests on that, or we just take for granted?
Through
Yeah.
Thank you, councillor, for your question. Through you, Mayor, to the General Manager.
Yeah, thank you. It's done on a case-by-case basis, so obviously if this was a pertinent matter to the recommendation, we would absolutely be bringing in technical experts to help justify a decision. For us, the basis of the recommendation is clearly outlined in the recommendation around the provisions of the planning scheme that we look at. There's a whole range of matters that planning officers have relied on their decision on in this instance. So in this instance, no, we didn't, but we could do so if we needed to, yes.
Anyone else speaking? No, we had no against, and we were in fours. I will speak and say, I think that I absolutely agree with the staff recommendation here. Our corporate plan actually says that we will try and manage the conflict between agriculture and development, and that we will try to protect our good quality agricultural land. And I think here that there is, I agree, no evidence that the state mapping is wrong. It should remain with uses consistent with rural activities, and while the applicant says that the houses are for family members so they don't expect conflict, of course they could sell the property and those houses next week if they wanted to, and we have no surety that anyone buying those houses would not find themselves in conflict with the existing agricultural uses. So I think this one is fairly obvious for me, and I absolutely agree with the staff recommendation and thank them for their report. Are we happy to go to right of reply? Do you want to write?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to also state that I'm absolutely not against subdivisions or reconfigurations of lots to allow for additional housing. I think that council has used and will no doubt continue to use its discretion in approving these types of applications where it is demonstrated that the new lots of land are not going to impact on our primary agricultural land, i.e. there might be in an area that is not good farming land. So I'm not necessarily entirely against applications like this, but this one certainly for me does not meet that threshold. I'd also just like to point out that if we did create these 2 additional lots, we'd also now then need to consider 2 additional applications to waive rural setbacks so that they actually could build a house on it.
Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 15.
We've just got to get the
Scared you coming in.
Okay. Item 15.4, we have a recommendation that council approves the relevant application fee for OPW 000327 seeking a development permit for operational works, earthworks, roadworks, water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure and stormwater drainage works at $3,500. Are you happy to move that, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Richters, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Wendell.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, we've been looking at this quite a bit, I believe, and I think the recommendation as it stands is a good outcome for the applicant. So I'm just happy to proceed and let them get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Wendell. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Anyone else speaking for the motion? Councillor Richters.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think this is an entirely appropriate use of council's decision making when it comes to waiving this fee to the extent that has been recommended, and I'm glad that the staff have recommended this amount because I think it is entirely in keeping with the pub test of when an application. I think it's not written in this report, but I think the application for extension was submitted on the 18th of May, 1 day after the lapse of this. So this is, one of those circumstances where council should, in my opinion, be using their decision-making ability to be realistic and accept that an application that's 1 day late, albeit against the rules, waiving it to this extent is is the right thing to do.
Councillor Richters. Any other councillors want to speak to this one? No, I think Councillor Richters has summed that up, so are we happy to go to a vote on that? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Councillor McDonald is leaving the room, and we have item 15.5. We have a recommendation that council adopt the asbestos in relocated buildings policy as attached, effective from 1 October 2026, and note that the policy will not apply to buildings where a building application or approval has already been lodged or issued prior to 1 October 2026. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Dean? Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Haslett. Thank you, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I believe this is a step in the right direction. Asbestos is an expensive and a hazardous material to deal with, and adopting this policy today will help take the pressure off our waste cell with a reduction in waste material coming into our region and saving our staff time.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Against? Councillor Richters.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand what we're trying to achieve with this policy, and I support the intent. Asbestos is dangerous when fibres become airborne, and we absolutely need to manage the risk properly. I also understand the argument about our waste facilities. If someone brings a house containing asbestos into Southern Downs from another local government area, they are also bringing the eventual disposal burden for the asbestos into our region. And I think it is entirely reasonable for council to say we don't want to import that additional asbestos burden. Where I disagree is applying exactly the same rule to a house that is already here. If a house containing asbestos is sitting in Warwick today and moves to Stanthorpe tomorrow, we haven't added any asbestos to Southern Downs. It was here yesterday and it's here tomorrow. And eventually, whether that house moves or doesn't move, council may have to deal with that material through our waste facilities. In fact, requiring otherwise intact asbestos to be stripped out from that house simply because it moves within our region potentially brings that waste into our facilities earlier than it otherwise would have arrived. And there is an important distinction here between the presence of asbestos and the risk from asbestos. Queensland WorkSafe's own guidance says asbestos containing material that is in good condition and left untouched is relatively low risk. The danger is when it becomes damaged or deteriorates. And Queensland already has a regulatory framework specifically dealing with relocating houses containing asbestos. That framework recognises that distinction. Where an exemption is granted to transport a house containing asbestos, material likely to be damaged or disturbed during the move must be removed. Friable asbestos must be removed. The remaining material must be identified and controls put in place to prevent it being damaged during transport. So this isn't a choice between removing every piece of asbestos or doing nothing. There is already a risk-based safety framework, and then there is housing. We keep talking in this chamber about housing, supply and cost of living. Relocated homes can be one of the more affordable ways for someone to put a roof over their head, particularly on our rural and village blocks. Every additional mandatory cost we impose makes that option a little less affordable. I don't think we should impose that cost unless there is a corresponding public benefit. For a house coming from outside Southern Downs, I can see that benefit. We prevent additional asbestos from being imported into our region and eventually into our waste facilities. For a house already here, I cannot see the same benefit. We aren't reducing Southern Downs' asbestos burden. We may simply be bringing forward its disposal while adding another cost to somebody trying to establish a home. So I think there is a sensible middle ground. Don't import additional asbestos into Southern Downs. Continue to rely on the proper safety requirements governing the transport and management of asbestos already there, and don't unnecessarily make an affordable housing option more expensive. And so for that reason, Mayor, I am going to move an amendment that all words into or within be replaced with into.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Have you spoken to that amendment effectively then, Councillor? Does anyone want to speak against the amendment? Oh, yeah, do we have the words up there? Yeah, sorry. That's right.
So just for the record of the meeting, Mayor, that wording exists in 3 places in the document where it says into or within.
Can you just guide me, Councillor Richter, please?
Just a discrepancy in that recommendation. It says policy is effective from the 1st of October. And then down here it says later on down there the 30th.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the 30th of September, I'm pretty sure.
So is the question when it takes effect?
Yeah, you've got up the top there, it's got in the recommendation, it's got the 1st of October. And then the report says the 30th of September.
Through the Mayor, the recommendation takes precedence, so if the recommendation is 1 October, that's when it will take effect.
Okay, so we have that amendment that was seconded by Councillor Bartley.
I haven't had a chance to speak for the amendment yet.
No, I'm just checking if someone's speaking against first, because Councillor Richters has effectively spoken for. Councillor Haslett? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, can I ask a clarifying question through the Chair, just to make sure? So can we just double check with Councillor Richters that what you're suggesting is that point 1 and point 2 stay and that the amendment becomes point 3?
Correct.
Or is the amendment the whole motion?
Oh, no, it becomes
Point 3?
point 3.
Okay, so yeah, thank you.
Councillor Haslett.
My reasons for not agreeing with this amendment is that if we are wishing to encourage removal homes, I would have thought that the reason to do it was to increase the number of homes available to residents within this region. Moving one of those homes from, as the example given, Warwick to Stanthorpe, does not increase the number of homes, it just moves a home from one place to another, but it does potentially increase the amount of asbestos that we have to put into a landfill. As you have correctly pointed out, Councillor Richters, if you don't touch the home, if you don't touch the asbestos in the home particularly, then you can still live in that home. But moving the homes is going to highly likely mean that you're going to do something to that asbestos because that's the nature of the movement of the building. So I think that it is good as it was, that we shouldn't be encouraging people to move homes within the region. There are other ways to build homes, there are other types of homes that can be moved, and I think that would be a better outcome rather than clogging up our landfill with more and more asbestos that we don't need to do.
Haslett, and speaking for Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Mayor. I think Councillor Richter just summed it up fairly accurately. I have seen whole blocks of houses where development occurred in Warwick previously, sold up and moved successfully to properties. It was an affordable way of most people putting property houses, and they do fit in well. But whole blocks where they would otherwise have been demolished, and the asbestos still had to be disposed of correctly, no matter what. So if it's managed properly, and there are processes in there to manage it, especially within your own region, those houses get moved to other areas. Merivale's a classic example. Most of those houses are removable houses there. So go and have a look how that's being managed. I think it's managed fairly responsibly. I think asbestos is really a national problem, not even a state problem. I think we should all, if we had our way, we shouldn't be probably just positing it in our backyard. We should be shipping it back out to the Blue Sky mine. That's where it belongs, where it came from. But in all essence, that's not reality. I think we've got to deal with it nationally, but if we can deal with our own asbestos in our own region, as the amendment by Councillor Richter indicates, I think it's a way of affordably managing housing. I have seen those houses moved with asbestos in them, and if it's a Super 6 on top, that gets automatically taken off. You cannot move a house with that on it. They just remove it on house removal. So no, that's got to go. But internally in the walls where they're all painted and supported by normally timber frames, generally they survive the removal quite well because it's got to be sympathetically done. It's not about wrecking a house when you remove it. It's about keeping it in a reasonable condition to put it back in on site. So I think it's a fair way of doing it. I'm sure that the checks and balances are in place to prevent disturbance of fibro walls inside houses, and that's what asbestos is, or in the ceiling. That's basically where the most disturbance, if it was ever to happen, would happen, but it's, as I say, they're treated sympathetically, moved effectively by these people who are well qualified in the industry, know what they're doing, and I think it's a way of affordably managing some housing for people. It's a cheaper way of providing a residence, and some of them come up really well when they're finished.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Speaking against?
No, I have a question.
Yeah.
What implication will this amendment have?
Through the chair, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Take on notice.
Happy to take that on notice, yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does anyone else want to speak against?
I have a question as well. So I'm sitting on the fence with this because I've lived in a house until a couple of years ago that was a lot of asbestos in it. So I know how it has to be handled and the repercussions if it's not handled correctly. But having said that too, I can't really say what the building inspector said when he inspected it when we bought the house. He said it was built like a brick such and such. So he said if you hadn't bought it, he would have bought it himself. He was so impressed with solidarity of that particular building. But having said that, I know that things can happen when a house is being moved from one side to the other, and things can crack or break. So if we went with this amendment, would there be a guideline in there or a condition in there that the person would have to have the property inspected fully before it was completely signed off to ensure that there was no cracking that had been, effectively they could bog it up and just paint it. But how do we prevent that?
Thank you, Councillor Chair. Through the chair, please.
Yeah, through the chair, the building certification process happens at both ends. So, building certifier will go through, inspect the building, they'll identify the asbestos before the process. They've got to then certify it when it's at its new location as well. So, if they need additional expertise in regards to asbestos treatment and things like that, they will call that expertise in. Obviously, the building doesn't have asbestos, it's a non-cost, and that's identified up front, and they identify the building for relocation. So.
Okay, thank you.
Is it a question,
I
Councillor,
was just
or
going to
speaking?
speak
For the amendment. For the amendment.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, going off Dan's answer to that question, I think that especially if a building is being relocated within the region, maybe 5 or 10 minutes from the location, it might not have any damage in it. So I think, this might be a good amendment for, to have into the recommendation.
A question from Councillor Haslett.
A question in terms of what the amendment actually means there, because I just heard the word might be used twice, and I don't like the word might when we are trying to decide what is right and what is wrong. So my question is does that amendment make it such that if a house is moved within this region, it is only allowed, that has asbestos in it, it is only allowed to be moved if that asbestos is not damaged, and if, in the might situation, it does get damaged, do they then have to go and dispose of it outside of the region? To me, that's not what that amendment says, so I'm trying to clarify the amendment meaning.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
That's difficult to understand without having had the time to consider the amendment.
Go for it then.
Yeah, happy to take that on notice, but I will direct council to the report on page 198 in the background. The whole intent of this is around minimising risk. So making sure, I guess, that whenever we're moving a house that contains asbestos, we're eliminating that risk as best as possible by removing it before relocation occurs.
Can I please make a procedural motion to lay this on the table to get more information about this amendment, to make a full decision based around it, please? Because I feel as though we're making a decision without all of the information here.
that's a procedural motion. Going for a vote on that one, all in favour? It's councillors Dean, Pigeon, Haslett, Richters, Bartley and Windle, and against councillors Wantling and Hamilton, so that is.
Someone should call a division on that so it can be recorded.
I'd like to call a division.
It has happened before. Yes, so that is adjourned, laid on the table. Moving on to item 15.6. We have a recommendation that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think Nick's going to do.
Sorry, Mayor, I realise I probably should have called a perceived conflict of interest with this one, in that I've already contributed my thoughts to this process, and I don't want to be seen as voting essentially twice on the matter.
Thank you, councillor Haslett. Have you got that?
Ben's in the form.
Sorry, is this 15.5 or 6?
6.
6, right.
We have a recommendation that council approve the public art proposal Interact Peace Poll, subject to the applicant submitting a Dial Before You Dig Australia plan, providing an engineering certification or wind rating if applicable, informing council's Works and Parks Department of the installation date, confirming they will take responsibility for all repairs and maintenance, including regular cleaning of artwork, and providing background information regarding the Peace Poll movement and the rationale behind the selection of languages, and make this available to the public through the Stanthorpe Visitor Information Centre. Councillor Pigeon, are you happy to move that as support by the councillor? Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
And a
you.
seconder?
No, I want to,
A seconder? Councillor Wantling. Over to you, Councillor Pigeon.
Thank you. I support this. This is a community-led application, and they're responsible for the installation and maintenance. The proposal has been assessed through the council's public art reference group. It's provided background information about the Peace Poll movement, and the selected languages help to explain the significance of the installation and connection to peace, cultural diversity and Southern Downs community. I really welcome this, and it will be great to see it installed in the Stanthorpe Park, so thank you.
Thank you. Are you speaking against?
I would like to make an amendment to this, just a small one.
Amendment motion, what is it?
Just at the final dot point of the recommendation be amended to read, providing a brief explanation of the Peace Poll movement and the languages featured on the artwork for public information through Stanthorpe Visitor Information Centre. But it's only a small amendment. I just think it's a bit harsh what's written there.
So change background information, you had brief explanation.
Yeah.
And then what was your other change in that amendment, councillor Wantling?
Just brief explanation of Peace Poll movement and the languages featured on the artwork for public information through the Stanthorpe Visitor Information Centre.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that amendment, councillor Richters? Thank you. Do you want to speak to that amendment, councillor Wantling, further than what you've just said? Is everyone happy to go to a vote on that amendment? Yep. Okay, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Back to the original motion. We had councillor Pigeon who spoke for. Did anyone want to speak against that motion? No. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Windle?
Yeah, just to say that I did, wonder what the rationale was behind the 4 languages, because I'm pretty sure that, we're all agreeable that there's a lot of other cultures within the region as well, but I've got nothing against what they've chosen. So I'm just seeing now that what I foresee is that perhaps there'll be more of these come up throughout the region, and maybe they might introduce other languages further down the track as well.
Thank you. Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to, So I think this is a good initiative, having a peace pole in our public display. I believe this is good to kind of reiterate that our region stands for peace and unity. So I think this is a great initiative.
Thank you. Councillor Richters.
Mayor, I think this is one of those examples which highlights just how welcoming the Southern Downs is to our visitors, the people who come here to visit or people who come here to work, being Central being one of those primary places where that occurs. I look forward to the many more peace poles that will come around the region, noting that this doesn't seem to be delegated, so maybe that probably should happen at some point into the future. I think it's fantastic. I would just like to note though, because the public probably like to have a little bit of insight into some of the things that happen at council, and just know that this did generate probably the most discussion during our information session on the day about the peace pole.
Thank you. Councillor Watling.
I just congratulate Interact because if some of you don't know, it's taken 2 years to do this. And it's a lot of them are our youth. And I know from a lot of them it's been a bit frustrating at times, and I just think it's fantastic. It's when we come to this. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Yes, and I'd like to say it's really fantastic that we think that it will be in place for International Peace Day in September, which the Interact group in Rotary always mark with a ceremony. And I think if they can achieve it by then, it would be a really special International Peace Day for us here in Stanthorpe. Councillor Pigeon, do you want to reply at all, or happy to go to a vote?
No.
All in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. And that's our.
I'm sorry, I just forgot. I've got a bit of general business. Just congratulations.
We've just got to get more women.
Yeah. I forgot to take
Next one, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got things on the road rails.
Councillor Watling, you have some congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to take a moment to congratulate two outstanding Southern Downs athletes, Ben Armbruster and Matthew Denny. Ben returned from the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow with an incredible 3 medals, gold in the 50-metre butterfly, where he shared first place in the new Games record of 22.73 seconds. Gold in the men's 4x100 metre medley relay and bronze in the 100 metre butterfly. He then backed it up at the Pan Pacific Championships in California, winning gold in the 50 metre butterfly in the Pan Pacific record of 22.75 seconds, as well as silver in the 100 metre butterfly. Matthew Denny also made his history in Glasgow, winning gold in the men's discus with a throw of 67.73 metres. In doing so, he successfully defended his Commonwealth Games title and became the first man in 68 years to win back-to-back Commonwealth discus gold medals. Matt is currently making his way across Europe and continues to stamp his name on the international stage. For our two athletes who began this journey in Stanthorpe and Alra to achieve this level of success on the international stage is remarkable. Ben and Matt continue to make the entire Southern Downs proud, and on behalf of the community, I congratulate them both.
Hear, hear.
Hear,
hear. Thank you, Councillor Watling, as portfolio holder for sports facilities. That brings our meeting to a close at exactly 12 p.m.